Season 8, Episode 9, number 315 of the Decoded Podcast. This is an example, number 315. If you and I would have talked 2 months ago about getting to 315, I'd have been like, yeah, no problem. We can do it in this many weeks. And then
life,
we don't cast for, we don't pod, we don't cast for around 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was dad details.
Yep.
Then getting sick, and it's like, I'll tell you though. So 315, this one's going to get lodged in my mind because as I was thinking about this morning, I have a routine I follow, like, to prepare for the day, and it involves being grateful and doing like a gratitude type thing. And I was like, I'm grateful that you and I have done these casts. We've gotten together on Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings or Friday nights or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful for the time we spend because 315 took 4 weeks to happen.
Yep.
Right? Like, anyway, that's kind of how I wanted to start today. But you were talking about getting back in the groove. And every now and again, if I just pause, I'm going to mute myself and cough my guts out. So just FYI, because whatever I have, it just doesn't want to go away.
Mm.
Oh, and before I let you jump in, 2 things. This week, I was dragging ass all week at work, like just effing dying every day. And I don't even have like a crazy ass stressful job. You know what I mean? Like and I was just every day. So I'm alive, 315. The second thing, happy birthday, brother.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm enjoying the gifts of Starbucks. You can see it just in the faded, blurred out background there. My coffee, my large sugar cookie oat latte. Now I'm not the guy. I'm not that guy. I don't have to do oat. I don't have to. But I'll tell you, it works. It works. It tastes like a sugar cookie, like oatmeal cookie. So pretty delicious. My week was kind of the opposite of you. My week was like a growth week, and there was a few ahas in there, and some enjoyable moments. I got to go to an equity conference, which was pretty good. It was pretty good. The learning there was good. It was so good in some instances that it cost me $125 because I bought some books off of Amazon. So that's how I know if there's something that's like if I'm inspired to pick up some new content to read, like something that I'm not going to just, research online and kind of do the bites of it and then action it. So I picked up 4 books, all with a focus on indigeneity in schools. So there's a really cool one called Indigenous Inventions. No, Indigenous Innovation. And it's all about Indigenous perspectives and inventions in science, technology, medical field, health, nutrition, and agriculture. So it's a really cool book, and it's written in a way that's really accessible. So sort of like a 1-pager, page and a half of kind of like, did you know? This morning I was reading the one on corn and how it sort of has flowed through different indigenous pathways to become the corn that we know today. Yeah, it's 9,000 years old. 9,000 years old. Who gets to say that 9,000 years old? The first sort of step towards it. So there was that, and then that kind of that step into going to a conference, which it's the first conference I've gone to since I've joined this school. So it's the first time I've actually stepped away, with the intention of trying to learn more. And that's not like I wasn't looking for opportunities, just sometimes those opportunities don't happen. So of course I'm learning with the job, on the job, in the job, but to actually get away for a conference, I find that when I do find one that I want to see, I'm rarely disappointed because I do the research and I kind of like, is this something that is going to be useful to me? Here's the second layer to this that I really liked. I really enjoyed, because I did it it took me 3 weeks to do this. 3 weeks. The prepping of my class to be able to be my actually okay, I'll go back to where I was going to start on this. It took about 2.5, 3 weeks to prep my class to my satisfaction that they understood why I was going to this conference, what the day would look like without me there. Um, Sort of get them on point with how their day is supposed to flow. So the sort of the regimen of the day, get them kind of used to that routine. I mean, I've been doing that since September, but really kind of I call them the push-ups. We were really doing the push-ups leading up to this, like just trying to really get the form and the function locked. And they do. They do. I mean, what with the way that I've designed my schedule and the routine of the day is that there is freedom, there's preferred time, but it's also hyper scheduled. Like the kids know we do 15-minute block of work, they get a 6-minute break. 15-minute block of work, 6-minute break. And I've used that for years. That kind of it's loosely based on um, the Pomodoro. I think I've told you about this. The Pomodoro method is just it's kind of based on kind of like egg timer thinking. So you do a chunk of work and then you have a short break, chunk of work, and then at the end of let's say 3 rotations of work break, work break, work break, you take a longer break, and that's one Pomodoro. So that full frame is one tomato timer, whatever you want to call it. So I've taken that and made it work for the focus and the function and kind of like the intensity that I want for the class. So that took about three weeks of intensive, like let's get ready to go. And then I go to the conference, and I answered a couple comments from them during the day, but it ran smooth. The EA was not. I was mindful on my plans. I it really can I rant for 1 second? I do not like when I see lesson plans left by my colleagues that say essentially, don't worry, the EA will run the class. So the teacher's in there and the words on the plan say, don't worry, the EA will run the class. That's not how this is supposed to be. And I had a lot of conversations with the EA that works with me. Um, See if I can get permission to mention her name on here. I don't have permission. So just Jenny for right now, just to use a name. So I had a lot of conversations with Jenny um, about that intention. We've had a lot of conversations about making sure that in the classroom, the students understand that Jenny and I are the balance of power and that we have equal power in there as far as when you're asked to do something or if you're being corrected or mentored or coached. Jenny and I have equal power, and we've done great work to help the kids understand the flexibility and the reciprocity in gender-based power kind of dynamics. And we often do talk about this as it is like a family. We take that sort of like that nuclear concept of, I guess, kind of like mom and dad and the kids. And it's worked for us and it's worked for the kids. They kind of understand it and they get it. So there really wasn't anything that popped up that challenged Jenny's authority. I don't. I the the teacher, the sub teacher, because there's funding, they can put that job out to the occasional teacher list, and someone picked up the job. So someone, because it can be one of two things, right? You can get on calls from inside the school, and then you have like, in a 3-period day, you have 6 different teachers that are in. They take half a period, half a period, half a period, half a period. So it was tendered out, and one person took it. And for the most part, they followed the lesson plan, but they they kind of just taught from the desk, and that's not what the kids in the class are used to. So there were some behaviors that popped up as a result of that. Not bad, but just stuff squeaked out because the kids were just more used to being interacted with, and that's how we've been rolling. So that was kind of cool while I was away, and obviously the learning and the $127 that I spent on books. And the sandwiches were good at the conference. Sandwiches were good. But the final part, this was the sweet spot. Here's the new space. And I will say to the kids, I'm gonna level you up right now, but I don't know if you're ready for this. But let's reach for it. Let's reach for it. I'm gonna share something with you that I think you'll understand if you allow me to explain it and we talk about it a little bit. But just so you know, I'll tell the kids I use a lot of color coding in class. So if I give them a sheet that's asking them questions to answer, the background, the cell is blue. It's kind of like a light blue. If they have to put an answer somewhere, the actual cell is green. So it's very much they know exactly if they're reading something they have to answer, they're going to put their answer in the green because I'm tech enhanced, right? So one of the colors I use is pink or that kind of magenta y color in the Google Docs. And if they see a slide with that, or sometimes it's just a solid slide, that means I work on waiting time with the kids. So I said, this is one where there's no blurts. You're going to take 1 minute and think about that question and see what kind of answers come to mind. And I said afterwards that you can volunteer an answer, but this is a non-blurt moment. You're just going to. So I took my plan. I took my plan that I left for the teacher, which was again an all digital uh, lesson plan. I love publishing it to the web because there's only information in there about the actual lesson. There's no kids' names, nothing like that, right? Um, and so I showed it to the kids, and I said, "This is the plan that I. This is what planning looks like to map out one day with you. My plan, Chids, is 15 pages long. Each class is 5 pages with timing, FYIs, considerations, strategies. So you're walking in as the OT or the on call teacher, and I'm sure you're like, what the hell? Who is this guy? But if you took a moment and you read it, you would see there's a very clear path through and you follow it because, and I know if you follow it works because Jenny and I did it together. We did it together. We said, this is the plan that will keep the day smooth. And Jenny's like, yep, good. Yep, good. Yep. And then, oh, can you just add this in there? Yep. And so we did it like that. But then I showed it to the kids and they were like, I love doing that. I love doing that. Those moments where the kids are just, they're going to have a really kind of confused moment. But then we also talked about that helped me um, really get them in the right frame of mind about the challenges of learning and the amount of consideration that goes into it or can go into it. Probably, I won't speak for all my colleagues, but this is where I go when I'm trying to design lessons. Like, there's a lot going on there when I try to when I look at my own lesson plan, I'm like, really, Cliff? And then I answer, I'm like, yeah, Cliff. This is the real deal. This is what's going on in your head as you're delivering a lesson. Now it's not just all kind of like blah. There's a lot of technical stuff I put in there, and I try to write it in a way that you know, I'm not writing it at a consultancy highbrow university level writing. Like this it's understandable the way I've written it. But I loved the opportunity to then lift the curtain, so to speak, for the kids and say, check this out because I always do when I come back from an away. I have a Clough was away survey, and I'll ask the kids like, was the lesson clear? Did you feel supported? Did the class as a whole work well together? Was the class as a whole productive? Were you productive? Did you have any behaviors that distracted the class? Were you distracted? And we just go through it's a scale of 1 to 5, and then we talk about that as well. So there's always a wraparound on the other end that we can sort of look at this as a fuller event than just me being away. Then the final part to this that I always tell the kids, I said, now this where we are right now, and I have to give them the assessment. I said, it sounds like you had a pretty good day. And it sounds like you had a pretty good day because you and I worked together on it to make sure that we were clear. So none of us got fired. I did my job. You did your job. Is it as good as when we're working together? No. Remember that we're better when we work together. I said, but it was still pretty good and we got our stuff done. Because then I follow up and say, let's see if we can make it even better next time. You're capable. You did it. I did it. I'm pretty proud of us. So I make it less about, I make the success criteria about how well we move on the next day and not just the behavior when dad's not in the room. And I really dig it. So that was a real kind of growth gift this week. I wouldn't say I was stressed, but I was like, I had a lot of difficulty. I was up to the 11th hour, still kind of like adjusting the lesson plan because I wanted it. This was the other key too. I wanted it to pick up exactly from where I stopped in each of the lessons. You know this. If you're there, you don't have to do that. You don't have to make it like dovetail right off. Part one doesn't have to make it to part two. You know, any of the great movies we've seen, there can be years between. It doesn't have to be the next scene. But there's something really sweet about those movies that do a part one, part two, part three, and it picks up right from where the story, like they just, it's like literally the next minute is the start of the next movie. I like to do that with my lesson plans. I find more times than not, I've always worked that way, that if I can really get close to that moment of whatever happened just as we left the lesson the day before, the kids are able to cue into what should happen next. There's enough of a cueing system there that they're triggered in back into the work as a review element and launch forward into whatever the next thing is. Oh yeah, that's right. Because even to the fact some of the kids haven't even put their binders away, so it's still open to the page on their desk. They're like, oh, there's the sheet that I need to work on. So some of these things, you know, they seem like games when you're doing your lesson design, but they really are quite elegant and shrewd tactics to keep the kids moving in a consistent way. So that's my that was my real there's my TED talk about lesson design. Crap, that was like 13 minutes long, bro. But that was a cool little bit of reflective practice and also a small pat on my back because it did work out. And you don't know until you come back and have a conversation. And a couple of the kids said they missed me, which is always kind of nice too. They're like, "Don't ever go away again, Clef." I'm like, are you okay?" Like, yeah, just it was different. I'm like, okay, different's not bad. We can talk about that too.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Um, I hear you talk about all that, and I got to tell you, the last time I had an on call, um, I got there later than I wanted to. I was on the first end of the on call, not the second end. I read the instructions. I welcomed the students in, told them what they were doing, made sure to introduce myself. Because the first thing I heard in the hallway was, "Oh, we have a supply teacher." I'm like, "I'm not a supply teacher. I work here. I work in student success, special education." Let's like, because some of them right away are like, some of them left, actually. Some left. I was like, awesome. Like, less for me to deal with. I'll do my attendance. We're good. Some of them were familiar to me because they're on my caseload, and then others were indifferent. And I actually, in the middle of my 40 minutes, I told two students in the room, I said, "Look, guy, I'm really disappointed in you guys." And they're just looking at me like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "Why are you guys acting like this? You don't have a heavy duty class. You're in the room. You're half the battle's over. Can you be respectful? Like, kids are trying to do stuff here." Even my caseload kids knew enough to be like, "Look, I'm not going to do any of this chitty act, but I'm not going to bother you either." I was disappointed. I was disappointed. So I hope that's the worst feeling too. You walk into a classroom as an on-call, and right away you get the vibe of, we're just going to do what we want. And it's like, are you guys for real? Which then now it also spins me into, do you remember the one day I had the on call for the active living class? Do you remember that? So my office space is inside one of those rooms. So I'm constantly walking in and out of a room that has active living classes in there. And I've gotten to know these kids, and they're really sweet, and they all have a personality. They all have a way of operating. And yesterday, I just felt like I was in my element. What happens is, I get to work, I do some work at my desk space, and I grab my stuff and I go to student success. But as I'm going, I stop in the classroom of the active living and I talk to the kids. I'm like, "Hey, how's everybody doing today?" And usually they're pretty quiet. So yesterday, I come out of my room and I start calling them by name, and they weren't expecting that, because normally say, "Hey everybody, how are you?" Because I'm not sure about their names, but I've kind of, some of it's sunk in, and I'm chatting with them one on one, and the teacher's like laughing because they're all just staring at me like they don't know me. And she's like, "Why aren't you guys interacting with Chidiac? Like, you see him all the time." And then I turned and said to her, I don't know what it is about this room, but in the hallways, they'll nod at me and they'll wave at me as they're going from active living to some of the classes that they're integrated in. And that those are, I think of what you're talking about, the plans that you leave, the timing, the interaction. You try to build things in a way that's going to work for your kids, right? And I guess after listening to you and reflecting upon my own experience, I seem to connect more with the active living kids and how they work with me on a daily basis after that one time that I was with them. And the lesson was gone. It went awry because I didn't have the chocolate chips. I needed to start baking the cookies. So then one of the EAs had to go find the chocolate chips. So I was standing in front of 12 kids and improvising. And I wasn't interested in doing that because my head is in another game. You know what I'm saying? Like my head is in get this out of the way. It's 40 minutes and then get back to what you normally do because you've got a long list of things to do. So having said all that, I improvise every morning now and every afternoon when I see this group because I've connected with them. And when I see kids that I've been in other on calls that I know, I, hey, how's it going? Are you having a good day? Make sure you treat people well. Make sure you treat people well because I know you and I wasn't treated well in that classroom. And this is ridiculous. We don't act like that here. That's not how you treat people. It's not how you treat people. You want me to treat you like that? Then, like, no. I'm like, well, then don't do that to others. Anyway, there's my little spin off from what you said. I'm glad that you went to your equity thing. I did I did take in some of the things you said to me this week because as you know, as I was driving to work and talking to you, I was not impressed with myself. Like right now I'm sitting here, my back is like in 7 different pieces and God, one day I hope to be healthy again. I'm going to try not to take it for granted because man, this sucks. But yeah, I'm glad that you got to go to that. That's exciting. I remember those days when I got to go to things like that. Anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's nice. It's nice where and I've mentioned this to you before, where there's a very short list of professional development that much of it is valuable and applicable. I mean, my board does a good job of kind of directing our gaze towards what we need to be paying attention to. I like that. But the things where it's that, and I feel on a personal level, it's connecting to where I'm at and what I'm craving to learn about. That doesn't always happen. It doesn't always have that feedback loop. So you get kind of these two minds. You say to yourself, "Okay, I get it. The board needs me to know this," but then I have a hard time. So it becomes all head space. It doesn't go heart space. So I would say that this conference, it started to creep into the heart space too, which is good because I started to have some some clear feels about what I was learning. It wasn't just analytical, critical, sort of like yes, checklisty kind of stuff. It wasn't just like the logic. It felt like it was more. I was reading this week in, I think maybe it was Daily Stoic, about the logos. So logos being like this, the way that the world works, and you want to be kind of in sync with that. And if you can be in sync with the logos of the let's say of the world, of your little world, then it doesn't make your decisions any easier. I would argue. I think it just gives you a a little bit of clarity about the decision is difficult. The decision can be difficult, but it shortens the list of things that you need to choose from, because it's like if you're going to stay in harmony with what's actually going in front of you, aka if you're going to stay present, you really can only do one of these three things, and each one of them is going to give you, possibly a different response. So I felt like doing this PD right now, and the way that I prepped up for it and the response that I got from the kids when I play the game tape, I was in sync with the logos. I was moving in a way that was connected, clear, and conscientious. So I made the right decisions to go to this. And then, of course, some of the learning and the moments that I had there justified that after the fact. I got to meet up with some friends that I haven't seen for a little while. I had probably singularly, I don't have a clear way to say this, the best hug from a colleague I have ever had. And I don't know if you would ever, everyone would qualify a good conference as that being one of the criteria, but I got to reconnect with a colleague that I haven't seen in 15 years. And we did some PD presentations together back in the day when EduTech was a thing and the Google training for staff member was a thing. We did a couple sessions of that. They were involved in, we had a lot of discussion. I guess I did a little mentorship. They became an alt ed head. So they changed schools to take on a different job. So there's a very cool connection. And right now they're going through some stuff in their job that they're having some challenges managing. They'd like to find the solutions. They haven't sort of found the solutions that work for them yet. So turning around and seeing them there, like, dude, it was probably a minute and a half hug, and it was locked. Like, no joke, it was locked, there was no question. There was nothing about it. It was just like, it is so good to see you. And then we talked for a little bit, and then we kind of went on our day. So there was that. Um, there was something else I wanted to mention. It may come back. It may come back. But yeah, I felt like I was actually tuned in well this week in general, tuned in well. Uh, the play, but you jump in. If you got, I don't want to, because I would pivot us, but I don't want to pivot so quick.
I want you to pivot, but first, because you're talking about seeing good friends from years
Hmm.
ago,
Hmm.
I wanna Gary's with us. So I
Gary,
want
good morning, brother.
good morning, Gary. Gary was away weeks ago, and then Gary hasn't seen us in weeks. And you talking about connecting with um, buddies from the past, good buddies, worthy of a major hug. That's something else. So, I'm not a big hugger, but I need to connect with Gary because Gary's one of my mentors now that I'm in secondary. I'd love to talk to Gary about where I am today and hear about what's up with him. And he's also wishing you a happy birthday. So I wanted to make sure we spit this out
Thanks, brother.
before you
Appreciate
pivot.
that. 53. 53.
Holy 53, eh? Jeez,
53.
Cluff.
Yep. I know, eh?
53, and I gotta say, bro, I gotta say, um, taking care of your mental health, your physical
Mm.
health, uh, being a great father and partner to your wife. Um, I gotta say, bro, for 53, you make it look good. You make it look good, but I don't. You're putting in the work. You're doing the work to be of mind, body, soul. So good on you. Keep it up.
And I'll be the first to say, yes, I agree with all of that. And I still have issues. I'll take all those shingles and just kind of put it outside my door. Bang, 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 bang. And at the bottom, still needs therapy.
Oh,
Still needs medication. Still needs the CPAP. Like, there's still these other things, right? And you know you're I best way I can say it is like I'm still sort of finding moments to kind of move with the logos of the week. So um it's being, kind of, I guess, broken and rebuilt all the time. So we're in this kind of like clay-like state, which I'm okay with. I think I've become more okay with that at some point in my career and my marriage and just my, they could say masculinity, my manhood, my development. I would have said no. It has to be so much more firmer. It has to be that box, the man box, right? Um, I don't. I'm not. Sorry, I am there, but I have an understanding that I can sort of step in and out of that if I wish.
you're in process. We are,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I mean, it's not a bad place to be in your process, right?
Nope.
Like, it could be worse. And you're right. There are still things. before I want to hear about your show.
Hmm.
When I was away with my boys on the last weekend, I don't we got into a conversation, and because we were together for basically 48 hours, just the three of us, and the young one mentioned dad strength. We were
Mm.
talking about strength, and both of my boys they're strong, and they're probably stronger than me at this point, but so we're talking about strength, and they're like, yeah, but you have dad strength. And their definition of dad strength is, if I needed to, I could muster whatever strength I need for a very short period of time to make something happen.
Yeah.
But I was laughing as they're talking about this, having this conversation, because what they don't know is I can muster the dad strength, but I'm screwed for at least 2 days
There's also
after.
dad recovery.
But I didn't mention that because I don't
No,
want them
no,
to
no.
know, right? But
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself, oh my God, yeah, the dad strength is there if it needs to
I,
be called upon. But the recovery is like, I'm totally drained for a couple of days, you know?
I do. It's good at some point. It's like the dad recovery, I think, is something they'll have to discover for themselves. And I mean, it's only dad recovery because of the position you're in your family. But that idea of recovery after having to muster is real, no matter, if it's based on a dad detail. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could, anybody that's sort of done that final push to sort of get through or get over or get past knows exactly what their recovery time, well, they discover it really quickly what the recovery time will be. So I like that. And 48 hours with your kids, it's a gift. It's a gift. You posted up about this. Even that one video that you did, I think, with you and Will at Chick-fil-A a couple years back, just talking.
Dave's hot chicken.
Dave's hot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just talking. And you can sort of look at it and go, this is what, a video about talking? And I think if you stop there, you don't get it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah. And if someone were to say that's what it was, I'm sure the true dad detail would be, yeah, yeah, I made a video. I made a video of my son and I just having chicken. But someone else is going to go, I get this moment. I get why you want to protect this and cherish it and put like a score on it and kind of frame it. And I get why you would go through the trouble of trying to get you both in the frame. Like, I get all those dad details because I get the story that this exists in. So, and I'm one of those, right? I'm one of those that consumes your content with that critical eye, but also with the like, I know this moment. So that's cool. That's very cool.
And I don't, if people watch it, great. And if they don't, that's great too. I know
Well,
what
ain't
that is,
that?
and I'm glad I locked it in.
I
That's it.
think it's so meta because it's a video about family flavored with dad details and then wrapped in dad detail wrapping paper because the whole thing about the dad details, if just for yours and my definition, is that they happen often without other people noticing or other people influencing it. The ridiculous dad details picture that I showed you of the crisp edge that my that my snowblower did on the edge of the driveway, right? And I knew as soon as I captured, I'm like, yeah, this is a thing. And I knew when you saw it, you'd be like, yeah, I get that too. And how you're just hoping that it cuts that edge and nothing falls on the driveway. Like somehow a Lego block edge is the ideal, but and I'm doing it entirely for my own fascination and titillation. But then I also know somebody walking by, two people walk by, one of them says, what the hell is that person? Why would they do that? And then the other person's like, I know exactly why they did that. Right. So this whole movie even thing that you're putting out is like a dad detail, meta dad detail is like, I get it. You're not putting it out there for other people to kind of give you an attaboy on it. You're putting it out there because this is how you enjoy to sort of celebrate these moments. And it just so happens that you like to make video. There's a lot of different ways to kind of channel that energy. So I love it.
I also keep an eye out when I'm out and about for the dad details. I watch dads interacting with their kids and their
Yeah.
partner, and I look for it much more now than I ever did before, because those are the moments that are cherished and remembered later that many people might not think about in the moment.
Yeah.
But now I'm trying to live understanding when those moments will come. So, and I'm getting kind of emotional thinking about it because last weekend with 48 hours with my boys, um, I was uh, I was prompted to engage with those moments. So,
Hmm.
if the kids said, "Hey, can we do this?" Where normally I'd be like, "What the hell? It's a waste of time," or whatever. I was like, "No, we're doing it." So it was funny because the Friday night we were in Sarnia, my oldest really wanted to go to a certain store in Michigan on Saturday. And I said to him, and it was funny because when he was asking me and Will about it, he was being oh geez, what's the word? Like he was being kind of careful in his presentation because normally I'd say no. And I know I
Cautious, cautious,
yeah.
cautious. Yeah.
So I said to him, I said, you know what? I said, I'd like to be at the tailgate at this time. That's what I would like. So you figure out what time does the store open? What time do we have to leave Sarnia to get to the store when it opens? Calculate, 10 minutes in there for traffic or construction or whatever, and we'll go. And he was like, really? I was like, yes, really. We don't. Basically, I was in the mindset of this is supposed to be a memorable, positive trip. So if shit hits the fan, or this happens or that happens, I'm gonna do my best to have on my radar how to show grace and how to go with the flow and how to calm myself down and just operate so I can help create a moment if that's possible. Because you can't always engineer these moments. Well, you can't. They just happen. So I was like totally in a zen place where I was like open to it. Like I'm universe, I'm open. If you bring me some of these, I'm gonna live them. And it was friggin' awesome. When we it was awesome. So he figured out the store opens at this time. We need to leave here around this time. What about parking? I'm like, I'll deal with the parking. Don't worry about the parking. I'll pay for premium parking so you can get to
Dad
go to the
detail. See,
store,
that's
right?
the dad.
The
There's
dad
a little dad
details.
detail. But
So
I
when we
got that. I got that. Don't worry. Yeah.
when we get into the store and we're in a downtown area where you have to park on the street, pay at a meter, all that BS, right? But I was like, we walk into the store and I'm like, go get what you want. And they were like, "What?" And I'm like, We've never been in a store that has everything that you've ever wanted in this like product type thing." So I'm like, "Go. I'm giving you an hour to just explore, enjoy, and we never come here. So you see something you like, let's talk about it if it's not ridiculously priced or whatnot." So I was like, I was mining for those moments, and there were a lot of amazing moments, and I captured them on photo, sent them to the wife almost immediately. Um, I guess that's what I'm living for these days, those moments. And I'm lucky that I had 2 days to dig at them,
Hmm.
right? So tell us about your show.
Well, I'll pick up from where I'll pick up the baton, so to speak. So being able to work with Jake in the show, and to see him grow as a performer and to connect with people, and for people to interact in such a joyful way with him and not know that I'm seeing that. So I just get to see him in an element where, yes, we're in the same play, but um, he's building his own relationships and connections. It's wonderful. It's been wonderful to see his character development. It's been great. His confidence um, has been pretty awesome. Last night we had an adjudication, and so someone that came from ActCo, the word act, and then space CO is kind of like a, as far as community theater goes, they are kind of like the one stop, and they have like awards and stuff like that if you register your show. So our show Music Man is registered with them. So the adjudication comes, you get assessed. And then in April, something like that, there's an award ceremony for all these different categories for the different plays that registered for it. So the adjudication went well, some really great feedback in general. One of the highlights though was him talking about Jake's performance. So he's part of the ensemble, but he also plays right off the kickoff. There's a song in this musical called Rock Island, and it's kind of like it has sort of like a kind of like a rap style, the best way I can describe it. So it's a lot of rhythmic talking, and it's kind of like so it has a percussion to it that sounds like a train, because that's what we are. We're a bunch of salesmen on the way somewhere on a train. So he plays shh, seriously, relax, sit, sit, yeah, you. So I'll get her out in a bit. So, anyways, the adjudicator um, was impressed. There's a kind of like a stretch of probably three stanzas in this song that are quite complicated, like tongue twisters, and he's been nailing it. Like he got that nailed long before the rest of us got our lines nailed in it. And one of the reasons that it's so critical is because it sets up the end of the this song where I pop up and I have to deliver a line right on the end of an orchestration cue. So what he's been able to do every single night is to stretch and compact his lines in rhythm so that I end up being able to say my line on time, which is critical. And it's just like it's mind blowing. And the other guys in the train, they're like, how does he do that? I'm like, I don't know. He just has a really good sense of percussive rhythm, and he can read where we are. He remembers where he should be in that song according to the sounds of the song, because it's a very low key kind of song in the background, but he knows exactly where he needs to be at a certain point in the play. And it sets up my final line, and then we do some talking at the end, and then the scene is done. And because it's the launch scene for the play, it's absolutely critical that it goes off well. So we sometimes say it has to take the stage. It has to take the stage so that the audience is just like, Ian, like we grab them right away, right? So that's been awesome to see him grow in that. I'm ready for the show to be done. There's a funny thing that happens when you come out of the process of learning the show, and I'm still learning. I'm still setting myself sort of goals and objectives each night to kind of improve on something a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, so that I have the fullest experience myself as a performer. It has been a positive experience. I would not have imagined when, back in the day you came and saw um, Lonely Planet. I wouldn't have imagined then that I would have put my name in for a musical. But I'm thrilled that I participated in this, and I learned what that process looks like. So now I can make a informed decision as to whether or not I would ever put my name in again for a musical. Um, and it's sort of when I think of the big picture, I have two shows today, one show tomorrow, back to work on Monday, the life of the community theater performer. And then I start my table read for the next show I'm going into, right? It's like this gig economy kind of mindset. You do this short term, this 4 month stint on a show, and then you move on to the next show. So I like that. I like that. I'm starting a new project on Monday. So it's a table read on Monday where people are invited to come and hear us read the play. And then we start formal blocking and rehearsals Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday next week. Go, go, go. It's funny for me to be here because you were kind of here in the beginning of this, and like coming out of COVID. And I don't mean funny. It's just I've been fortunate to consistently be able to get roles for the roles to be there for a 53-year-old man who's coming back to theater that to like this past year, um, 10, 10 of the 12 months, I was preparing for shows. Once like I don't have another show right, like if in the chronological year, I don't have another show after this one. Sorry, after the next one to go on to. So as of February, end of February, I don't have another show to go on to. Um, so who knows? But that's a really good year, bro. Like to be able to do four shows. Come on, like.
When you said that I've been here from the beginning, I remember, I think it was when you were 50 and you were flexing. Am I right? It was around your 50th, close to
Hmm.
50, when you were like, I'm going to jump back in. I'm going
Hmm.
to see if I can make this work
Hmm.
at 50. And I was like, awesome. Um, and I'm not an expert on theater, but I'll tell you that you knocked it out of the park when me and the boys went to watch you at your first show back.
That was
It
awesome.
was something. I was like, you nailed that. And like I said, I'm no pro, but hey, I enjoy theater, and I've been to lots of shows and I've enjoyed them, and I enjoy getting sucked into the show. And that first show back for you, I thought it was great. Um, and I thought you were great, and I'm glad that you found like a space to continue to do your artistic work.
Hmm.
And I know you don't it's not just an art for you. There's a science to how you manage your
Hmm.
mind. And recently you talked about a little bit of a struggle with your performance, and then
Hmm.
how to create a workflow, a protocol to get things back in order. So
Hmm. And it
it's
worked. It did work.
oh, good. And it's funny
Yeah.
that we're talking on your 53rd birthday about this, about what you did, what you started with, and where you are today. 4 shows in a year. You're acting with your son, which is like, do you guys have a photographer? Is there somebody taking pictures of all of you performing on the stage? Like,
There, yes, no. A lot of the pictures that you've seen have come up on my Insta feed. Those are me taking photos from the audience, from the side stage, from the wings. So I will say the best photos so far have been the ones that I've been able to capture and have in my feed. There isn't someone that's always there taking photos. There are a few more. I'll probably take a photo or ask someone to take a photo of me and Jake, me in my Charlie Cowell character and him as the businessman. So basically us the train that there's a first train scene. I'll get someone to get a photo of that. That'll be a good memento for me to have in my Insta feed. I can go back to that. But I think at this point I've kind of like everything that's in my feed there. That's all the photos I need right now. Just the only one that I don't have is one of him and I. And I would say the reason is that um, because I'm seeing him all the time there. So it's kind of like I'm taking it in real time, but it would be good to have an artifact, I think.
I just, I think, I, th- I think it would be epic um, for I think this should be happening at all these shows, to have someone responsible for taking photographs of the performers as they're performing. Um, I'm surprised it's not. I know sometimes you go to shows and you're an usher, you volunteer your
Mhm.
time. Maybe sometime you should volunteer as a photographer.
I have pitched it in general. I think it just depends on because I would love that gig. I would love to like I would just get access. I would come to rehearsals and I'd just be snapping off. It's basically archival stuff, right? And then give the photos back to the community theater and say, here you go. Here's what I've captured. Um, there's a balance there of I'm sure if I volunteered to do it, I don't think anyone would say no. Now that I've sort of made some connections and I could say, look at my Insta feed, you can see what my perspective is. I like to do black and white. I like to do, the square kind of photos. Can I have access to your rehearsal process? And you can use it for marketing. Use it for archival marketing. I think I have enough now as a portfolio that I could be that guy. But then I have to make the choice then, because that takes away. Because I think in order to do it well, you're right. I would want to be there once a week for rehearsals. Like I would be showing up at rehearsals and taking photos the whole time as they're working. And to do that would then also mean I'd be trading off my own rehearsal time to be in a show myself. So, right? So it's that when your art is wrapped around your life and it's your hobby and it's like we only have the 24 hours. So, and I would never commit to something just to do it necessarily. I would want to do it because, someone helped me feel something or I felt something for the actual project. So that helps too. Like a lot of the photos that have come off of the Music Man is because I really did have, I was like, oh shit, like that's a really nice composition of a photo. And, people have sort of looked at the photos, are like, wow, like when you take, like, how do you get, like, they sort of like the photo's really simple, but I'm like, well, I just have kind of like a little bit of an understanding of composition and it's just what I like to look at. So if I notice it and I can box it, then I take the photo of it. And it's the same thing with like my landscapes, like my fascination with lines that kind of go up into like I constantly am taking these geometric kind of like skyline pictures. I don't know. My brain just likes to, my brain feels good taking photos of that. So who knows? Second, third career. If I could do it as a side hustle, I'd have to learn most of the photos, my best photos that I take with my iPhone. So I want to learn to take just as good photos. I'm still learning with my digital camera, my SLR. So I might have to bust out soon. I can see the dogs circling over there, which usually means it's bathroom time.
We're past the time I even thought we were going to go. So you good to wrap it up?
I am, I think. I am. It's a nice today. There's some things that have to be done, but I feel like I'm in kind of an easy mood today, just to kind of get things done. Just trying to stay close to baseline. Um, Getting up and having to clean up after the messiness of the dog this morning. Um, yeah, that ain't cool when the dog makes a mess like that in the house. But dad detail.
Dad detail plus it's your dog, right?
It
You're going to
is.
take care of it and make sure it's all good.
You got it. You got it, dude.
Thanks, Gary. Wishing you a great day as well.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate you being here. Really do.
Anybody else who's listened in, thank you for checking us out.
Hmm.
After our 4-week hiatus, but it was dad details and illness, so it'll
Yep,
do that to you.
it will. And if you're, being honest with yourself, you let that in, and you just kind of move with it, right? Imagine our guests. Our guests would have been pissed. Imagine having to reschedule 4 weeks of guests. Oh, ugh.
Would have been a nightmare.
You and me, it's just a text, and it's like, for sure, bud. I got you. We'll move on.
But all that to say that getting to season 8, episode 9, 315, I'm grateful
Yep.
because, like I said, this one took 4 weeks to happen. So you just never know. This could be our last episode ever. You just don't know. So it was a good one. I'm glad we could do it. I'm glad you made it to your 53rd birthday. It's pretty cool. Um, that's it.
That's
So
it.
this was season 8, episode 9, 315. Have a great day.
You as well, dude. You as well.
Enjoy your birthday.
Thanks, man.
Peace to everybody. Oh, I love it. The fireworks.